Where are you at?
Well, man, I don't know about you guys, but church can be super boring and it can be super monotonous, right? Am I the only one here? And I'll take that awkward laugh as a yes. Yeah, I mean it is. So I totally get that. That's where I'm at. You turn up each morning, and especially if you're involved in your church and you're a pastor or something, it can be really tiresome to do the same thing. Set the chairs up, set up the PA system, give another sermon, get the band going, and you know that it's good to be doing it, but it does get monotonous after a while. Right? Mm-hmm. But in saying that, that's not a reason sometimes just to want a new novelty. So and it's really hard to, as I was trying to say, it's hard to discern when it's time to move or when it's trying to try to hear the call of why those church models came into being in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say would be the first kind of thinking about what is true and false reform. Is it being more authentic to the first calling?
What's the first calling?
Well, exactly, and I think everyone has to answer that for themselves. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Is it the first church calling of the Protestant movement? I don't know if we're Protestants. Should we be going back and hearing that again? Why did they reform? Why did they set up like worship and kind of their spiritual formation in that kind of way? Should we be going back to it and being more true to it? Where have we drifted away from it? Mm-hmm. So that would be one thing. Maybe that's a way of reviving the Sunday morning service without having to change the outward look of it. I don't know. Or maybe the outward look needs to change for you to get back to the core of that first call. So that'd be one thing. But also, I wouldn't want to discount that I think there is a real movement of the Spirit happening at the moment. And you see it on YouTube all the time. Because we have so much more, we can listen to Orthodox theologians, we can listen to Catholic theologians, we can listen to Protestant theologians. People are saying, maybe there's a different way to do church. That isn't being unauthentic to the tradition that I've been brought up in, but it's in many kind of ways been more authentic to the tradition, the very core of that tradition that I was brought up in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What I hear...
That's what I was
saying. No, those are good thoughts. What I hear is it okay? I think it's okay that church is boring sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You know what?
I do too.
I think because I'm like, when I go to church, I'm going to define, when I go to the gathered body of Christ on a Sunday morning, if we want to be more specific, what I see that as is a rhythm of life. Yeah. What I see that as is what's a priority? What's gathering together with people who also have Jesus as Lord and are filled with the Spirit. And whether you're a liturgical church, high church or low church, or Pentecostal or Wesleyan Methodist like myself, everybody has a liturgy. It doesn't matter whether it's thoughtful or not, or spontaneous or not. Everyone has a liturgy. Yeah. So the liturgy is actually the thing that's forming over time, where instead of being on Monday to Friday in the marketplace, at work, seeing 100+ advertisements as I drive home from work on billboards, or whether on the radio or on the podcast I'm listening to, I show up on a Sunday morning to the gathered people of God, with the gathered people of God, and I'm letting that be the thing that actually informs who I am, why I'm here and stuff. And the fact that it's boring might not, maybe that's where I'm at in my life right now, but I'm okay with that. I went to a church, I told Graham this morning, I went to the Matakana Anglican Church because my uncle-in-law has a place around there for the family during holidays, and he brings the extended family in. And I don't normally go to church on Sundays when I'm on holiday, but I felt like going that Sunday. And the service was high Anglican. It was, call and response, recite this, songs off an organ, and it was like, by all intents and purposes, boring. Right. But for me, it made so much sense because it was bringing me on a journey of this is actually how you should view yourself in the world, where God is the beginning of the story, is the story, and is the end of the story, and he's inviting you into that. Right. And the service was actually articulating that. And then I was surprised when the priest or the vicar got up, he had a really engaging 10-minute homily. Like, it was probably one of the best sermonettes I've listened to in a long time. Yeah. And it was really thoughtful, evangelical in the sense that it was calling people to action. Yeah. And it wasn't just like a thought exercise. So I actually left that boring service. It was not child friendly. Yeah. quite, I was like, oh, this actually helped me along the way.
Yeah.
But that's not to say what you're saying isn't true and isn't important to consider as well.
Thanks, man.
You know what? I'm just affirming that in you.
Whew, I was worried there for a minute.
Yeah. But how about, Graham, you say something, and then we open up the mic to see if anyone else has thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I just, on the back of what you were saying, I have a good friend who's, she's at Massey University, he's in communications senior lecturer there, and he's a Catholic. And so, we were conversation partners. I was doing my PhD, and he goes to it. He said he quite likes going to a mass that's in Latin. Yeah. And I said, what? Why? He said, because he said, I'm sitting there. I said, but I don't understand anything. He said, yeah, it's as boring as heck. But he says, I'm there in my mind as I'm looking around, and I think his point was saying is he's absorbing something. Often we, in our Western way of thinking, we're so linear and so outcome driven. What's the purpose of this? What am I going to get out of this? And I think what's happening there is a making that's happening that's yep. in that space. Yep. Something is going on more than we realise, and I think we want to reduce it all down to, I got this out of this. All right, this is the purpose of this. It doesn't mean to say those aren't good questions, but yeah.
I think that's right, and I mean,
you can walk to the mic if you want now. You can interrupt us,
and I will. Yeah, I will say. Just let me say two more things. I think. I mean, we're not knocking John Mark Comer here, because I think what he is doing and what I can hear here is he's doing two things. One, he's wanting to get a liturgical kind of way of Sunday morning where we are all have skin in the game. So we help disciple each other in a more closer, kind of more intimate way. I think that's what he's after. So often we can turn up to a Sunday and just leave, and you haven't. How are you being formed in that moment? Mm-hmm. So he's trying to come back to these deeper rhythms. I think that's epic.
Yeah.
But two things I would say about true and false reform. One, I think it can't become exclusive, where you say this now we've got it. Now this is the only way that we should do church. I think as soon as you narrow down and you say that there's no other forms of expression of worship and Sunday mornings that are legitimate, only our one is legitimate now, you're in trouble. So hopefully that doesn't happen. That would be one thing. And the other thing I would say is that I think true and false reform, good reform, stays connected to the larger body of the church. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you remove yourself and you say, we don't need the church anymore, then I think it's a false reform. Yeah. So those are the two other things I would say to that. Yeah. Yeah.